So we're reading Ultimate Journeys by Robert Monroe. We are on chapter 3, page number 21 of the PDF.
Chapter 3, Along the Interstate. It took me many weeks to adjust to the idea that I would no longer be able to go home. I had thought I would be returning to a hero's welcome, bringing back valuable information from here to change and improve there. But it was not to be.
So every locality, in his first book, Robert Monroe had talked about locales. So he called it locale 1, locale 2, and locale 3, etc. So there were different localities that he used to visit, right? Now, of course, in the last chapter, we saw that Robert Monroe, in an out-of-body state, went to visit his home planet or home environment. And he found people were stuck in a loop there and they were not interested in learning anything new. Now, he naturally is a progressive guy and he's ejected. He has developed escape velocity to escape from there. And he finds that he has nothing more to do there. So very clearly, he says that he is not going to visit home again. In Far Journeys, it was called KT95, if I'm not mistaken.
I made no attempt to try to go home again. I recognized finally and sadly that this option no longer existed for me. It became much on the order of a childhood recollection, something to hold dear as it was, but not to relive. Clearly, much ego and ego gratification were involved.
Shivangla, we can't hear you properly.
But one known did emerge. I knew why I had left. A further visit with my new inspec friend helped greatly. He, or was it she, or both, was waiting. A familiar bright spot in endless blackness.
Okay, so again, when we are going into these expanded states, then your sexuality becomes neutral. You're not, the sexual content goes. You're not male nor female, although you can refer to someone as he or she.
The sense of loss will pass. It is not lost because you remember.
So now this is important, right? The sense of loss will pass. You get used to it, okay? But the essence of whatever has gone will always remain because it becomes a part of you in your memory. So whenever a near or dear one passes, the thing that we need to do is to hold on to the memories, right? Hold on to the blessings and the times that we have spent with them. Okay, we keep them alive in our memories.
I don't belong there now. Everything was the same, just as it was, but I didn't fit. It was as if I tried to put on a coat or glove I had outgrown. I can't go there and be. I'm too different.
So again, as we grow and shift, as we grow and change, what happens is that the people who we associate with, the spaces that we resonate with, right? That is also bound to change because we have shifted in our frequency. We have shifted in the way that we are, our state of being has shifted. So we no longer resonate with the same things as before. So this is something that we keep telling people that once you start doing the programs, you will find your group of friends may change because you're no longer interested in what the older group was saying, right? So new people you will start getting associated with.
And that saddened you. Yes, more than that, it is as if a part of me no longer exists. I've thought of it so many times, going home. It is the reality of returning that does not exist. You need to release the illusion that you could do so. I have, and I think I know what the actual difference was. It was exactly as I had remembered it. Nothing had changed. I guess I expected some kind of progress, but what made me face it was the repetition. If you watched long enough, if you listened long enough, everything repeated itself. There's no excitement, nothing new. That energy pattern, you did not learn that from being human. No, that is why I left home, the limiting factor of repetition. There was no growth, nothing new to learn or experience. You learn all the time in living on earth. Change and new learning go on constantly. But the fact that I can't go back home will take getting used to. It is not easy to handle.
So again, so that's the difference between his home planet or home environment and the Earth life existence. Over here, we are constantly learning new things. We are constantly doing new things. And that's what makes the Earth life existence very valuable when we go back from this existence.
Yet you will adjust, just as you will when you reach a point where you recognize that you can no longer return to being human. Perhaps it is better put that you not only cannot, but you do not need to do so when you have outgrown what you call the human coat and glove.
So now this is also again the same thing, right? We will even outgrow the Earth life existence. When we outgrow it, we don't need to come back. Yes, some great masters, etc., who have outgrown the court, come back to be over here to help the rest of people who are experiencing this Earth life existence to be able to transit. So the great masters actually do a sacrifice to come back to guide us. Okay, but most people, once they have transcended this Earth life existence, they don't need to come back. In the Monroe Institute focus level scenario, once you've crossed over from 27 into 34, 35 and going on into the higher focus levels, you really don't need to come back.
That will happen. That I won't want to be human. How will I cope with that? When that point approaches, it will be easier than you can perceive as you are now.
So it's very easy to go from 27 to 34, 35. It's very, very easy.
When that point approaches, it'll be easier than you can perceive as you are now. Well, if you say so, I believe it to be so. You will know instead of merely believing, as you are fond of saying.
So again, when you transcend, you will actually feel it. So most people, when they're going into these different focus levels, they actually can perceive the difference between focus 10, focus 12, focus 15, focus 21, focus 18 in the middle, and focus, and as you go higher, 23, 24, 25, and 26, 27.
Thank you for your help, which is a weak way to put it. We understand. You are welcome. The glowing figure began to fade and then winked out. My return to the physical was without incident. Things for me changed greatly after this meeting. I became aware of another wider goal, to grow and evolve somehow into the awe-inspiring yet warm being that I happily called my inspec. With this desire and decision, I accepted the gentle encouragement that was being offered. The result was a strange mixture of peace and excitement, simple and complex at the same time, a form of knowing and belonging beyond description.
So again, we constantly tell people, and especially during the biofield sessions, when the Earth star gets stuck in certain places or the Earth Sun star gets stuck in certain places, that you need to have a goal in life, right? If you don't have a goal, then you are like a rudderless boat. So knowing what you're wanting, knowing where you're going, knowing your laksh becomes very, very important. Again, this is my view, right? But as we grow and evolve, our goal can change. So the same things happened over here. His goal was to go back home. Now, once he had gone back home, now his goal has shifted, right? Because he has grown from that particular experience of going back home and his realization that there is nothing there for me. I need to form another goal. So his now goal has become to become like the InSpec.
This was heightened exponentially when I was escorted on a short visit to the fringes of InSpec space at my request. Although I was able to perceive very little other than the massive empathy and love that radiated through me, there was also the strong impression of many beings in happy residence. There was even a flow of newcomers joining this community, which I felt as layered intelligence forming energy, life. The strange part was that it seemed like a new home to me, as if I already knew the residents. Yet it was more than knowing. It was as if I were a part of them and they of me.
So again, InSpec is coming from a higher state of consciousness, right? Now, Robert Monroe in Far Journeys, we saw that there was a barrier and Robert Monroe could not cross that barrier at all. Now, the fact that he is going to that layer, right? And then he's feeling the radiation coming from there. And that radiation feels like home. So as we go into the higher focus levels, what we have noticed is that people feel more and more comfortable in the next higher focus level. This is a given. And I would say that 99.9% of the workshop participants actually feel that. So you'll feel more comfortable in focus 12 than in focus 10. You feel even better in focus 21 than in focus 12. You feel much better in focus 27 than any of the lower focus levels. So it becomes your point of where you actually go more often, generally speaking.
The combination of excitement and serenity there left me bemused. Why could there not be some way that humans living on Earth could exist in such harmony? At the next meeting, I brought the question to my InSpec friend as we drifted beyond the outer edge of the rings that make up what I was later to realize were the belief system territories, part of the M field spectrum adjacent to the Earth life system, where many human minds reside after completing physical life experiences. We could perceive the Earth in the center with the semi-transparent, radiant globes around it, each larger and thinner as the distance increased. It took some effort to recognize that we were seeing the non-physical energies in the structure rather than electrons and molecules.
So again, he's talking about the belief system territories. These exist in focus 24, 25, and 26, where you go into an environment which you are comfortable in and you feel radiant in, you feel happy being in those states, right? So every organization, every religion, every culture has their own center over there, and you can go and associate in that center and be there for as much time as you would like to be. And these are again frequencies. Just 1 second, hold on. These guys are making a racket.
It is interesting that your civilization knows nothing of this aspect of the structure, as you put it. I wonder if they ever will. Not in the completeness that you would wish. If they did know this, it might clean up the mess. So much of it seems without purpose. The pain, the suffering, the violent emotions, it is very hard to accept that mess as a design of some sort. Perhaps you will have what you call a different overview when your opportunity comes.
So again, as we grow, our vision changes. So we keep saying that if I'm looking at something from here, I can only see so much. If I look at it from here, I see so much. If I take an overview, I get a bigger picture. So as we expand our conscious awareness, the way that things occur to us, the way that we perceive things, right? That also starts to shift. So definitely he is going to have another overview in due course of time.
My opportunity? You mean I will have a chance to do something about it? Yes, you and your friends. It might be helpful to you to visit the potential of states of being that are very different from the one you are experiencing. For example, to visit an era where human organization is different and conforms more to the way you believe it should be.
So again, going into the past, going into the future. This happens a lot in Focus 15.
I can do this if that is your wish. Can you be with me? It will be my pleasure. Are you ready? If you move slowly, I might be able to learn the technique. You already know it. It is the same as the one you used to move to what you called home. It is only the destination that is not a part of your knowledge. You are right. If you lead, I will follow.
So again, the technique is what? Intent. The moment you set your intent on something, it goes and you release what you're holding on to, and then you set your intent as to where you want to go. So the intent here is to follow the inspect, right? So that's a clear intent. He releases here and follows the inspect.
The glowing figure began to move. I stayed close by until suddenly it started to dwindle. My response was automatic. The energy pattern of the earth dissolved into blackness. Then, out of the blackness, a landscape emerged. Just ahead of me, the glowing inspect waited motionless. We were some 1,000 feet over a wide valley which appeared to be 8 to 10 miles long and about 5 miles wide. Snow-capped peaks surrounded the valley on 3 sides. Beyond the open sides were forests and fields extending to the horizon. A bright sun hung in a blue sky studded with small cumulus clouds. Directly below us was what appeared to be a large settlement stretching nearly to the base of the mountains. There was a mass of trees of a variety of shapes and sizes with variegated foliage in every possible shade of green. Among the trees was a complex and extensive network of narrow paths. But there were no houses or buildings, no smoke or smog. The air was totally clean and clear. I turned to the inspect.
Okay,
No
so when
houses.
we go into these expanded states, the realities that we experience can seem very, very real to us. Okay, we actually start immersing into them. We can smell things, we can taste things, we can feel things, right? It's all the senses can be activated. Those of you who've done the excursion workshop, the quantum self, the last exercise or the last but one exercise that we do, most people get a lot of sensory perception in that exercise. So you're going into another state of consciousness where the clair senses start to work. The normal physical senses are not working. The clairvoyant senses start to work.
No houses, no buildings. Sleeping quarters are underground and the places for artisan activity. Where are all the people? They are among the trees. Each is performing an individual function. How many are there? Just over 2 million, as we understand it. 2 million? That is so. How many settlements are there like this? It is our planet Earth, isn't it? It is indeed, and it is the only such place. There are the only humans in residence. The only ones on all of Earth? That is correct. I won't ask what happened that brought the numbers down from billions. So this is what we can expect in the future? You are thinking in the wrong direction, my friend. What do you mean? This is a place of the past, as you express time. The past. There is nothing in our history that remotely resembles this. It must be very far back. It is nearly 1 million of your years. The inhabitants are the human, such as I am. Slightly different, but definitely human. Can we go down? We can indeed. That is our purpose. Will they be able to see us? Can we communicate with them? Yes, with no difficulty. They won't resent our intrusion. On the contrary, they will welcome us. We drifted down towards the trees and then into the open area about the size of a football field. It was a park, or perhaps a huge flower garden with neat, irregular beds of flowers and plants, some of which I recognized. Wide, grass covered walks wound around among the beds in sweeping curves. I even thought I could feel the grass under my feet. You do feel it, just as you are able to see, in a physical manner, but you are not physical. I turned. The glowing figure of the inspector was beside me, walking rapidly towards us for 4 people. They seemed about 5 feet tall, each with a different tone color of hair and skin. Their hair was uniform in length, just below their ears. Their faces and bodies were those of active, athletic 30-year-olds, but without bulging muscles. 2 were men and 2 were women. It was easy to tell because they wore no clothes. They have no need for clothes. What about keeping warm or protection from the weather? Each has an individual control system for that purpose. I don't see anything. It's all in the mind, as you would say. I gather you have been here before. That is so, in a manner of speaking.
So again, going back and how the men used to live, right? They had more control over their minds, etc. Now he's talking about millions of years back. Now this is something that we need to just accept that it was his experience.
The 4 approached and stood before us, smiling happily. They had beautiful bodies in perfect condition. I wondered how we could communicate, what language they used. Could they even see us? One of the men took a step forward and nodded. Yes, we can see you, Robert, and communication is easy. We will use your English, okay?
So again, they were using non-verbal communication.
The okay was what got to me. There was something wrong here. How would he know American slang from the future? We absorbed it from your mind, no problem. Then I noted that his lips had not moved and saw a twinkle in his eyes. We both laughed mentally. I had found a new friend who could read minds, probably every last bit of what I thought or felt. From then on, all of the talk was mental, thought transference, you might call it.
So again, everything is open. They know exactly what you're thinking, what you're feeling, right? So where is the question of any kind of dispute? Where is the question of any kind of misunderstanding? Because everyone knows everything.
This is a beautiful place, I began. The weather is very pleasant. We stir up a thunderstorm every afternoon to clean off the leaves and provide water for the plants.
So again, they had control over the weather. Now, this is something that we have seen in Native American Indians also. You know, they do the rain dance and all that, and it starts to rain. So of course, we have a connect with weather patterns also. This has also been seen, it's been researched, right? That a lot of minds, if they intend to have a good time or something like that, many times you can really affect the weather patterns also.
With lightning? Yes, but we direct the intensity and where it will make contact. The electrical charge is vital to all carbon-based life. And the wind? Do you control the wind too? The wind? Would you like it stronger? No, it's all right, it's fine. He smiled broadly. You are wondering what we eat. You all look well fed and healthy. Healthy? No sickness or injuries, and so on. You come from a strange world. Do you really have difficulty maintaining your physical body? That is our major difficulty. How sad. Our history has a record of such problems. Many thousands of years past. No bugs, no viruses, no one is killed or injured. I understand what you are saying. The bugs and viruses work with us, Robert. There is no conflict. As far as for being killed, we stopped what you call dying long ago.
Okay, just 1 second. Hold on, please. So again, they have achieved a state of consciousness where there is no conflict. Everything works together. Everyone works together. Even the bugs, the weather, everything is connected to everything else.
Thoughts and questions flooded my mind. One rose to the surface. Then you must control your reproduction. Oh, yes, and as for the rest of that thought, we still enjoy the ritual. But no children. We have many children. Would you like to meet some of them? Yes, I would. I will call them. A series of different whistles sounded in my head, like songs of birds, almost a form of music. Out of the trees came several kinds of animals, large and small, all bounding up to the four people, who rubbed and patted them. Some resembled cats, others were reptilian, some, like small alligators and large snakes. Others were monkey-like, and still others could have been deer, but with long manes and tails. A swarm of huge bees surged out of a tree and made diving, playful swoops past our group. Overhead, a pair of large, brilliant green birds soared in circles, looking down at us. A small blue bird dropped down on my friend's shoulder and chirped in his ear. He turned to me. Our children. I would like to call my own animals children so easily. You will remember the sound, and with practice you can. Is all of the earth like this? The animals, I mean? Only here in the valley. The rest is much what you would expect from reading your books. You know of the food chain system? I do. So the animals die? Yes, in the natural order of events. So do these, our children. A balance is achieved and we do not disturb it. Then what do you eat? Vegetables? Eat? I will show you. My friend turned to one of the females in the group, who stepped over to a garden plot and scooped up what appeared to be simple black dirt. She brought a handful back and stood beside us. Suddenly, I knew what was going to happen. Would you like some of your favorite corn? Silver Queen, as you call it? I nodded. The girl stared at me intently, then put her other hand, palm down, over the handful of dirt, still holding me steadily in her gaze. I knew she was reading my mind. After a moment, she lifted her hand and uncovered a pale white and perfect miniature ear of corn. She held it out to me. He can't take it, said my friend. He doesn't have a physical body with him. I sensed the girl's laughter as she turned and tossed it to one of the little brown fawns, who sniffed at it suspiciously. They do have laughter, I registered, so they must have had other emotions.
So again, transmutation of anything to anything. There were many Rishi Munis and Gurus, etc., who could actually transmute one thing to the other. Ultimately, everything's made out of molecules, right? So you can transmute them, make a different connection and create something out of that. So that's what they were doing over here.
We have experienced every emotion you can remember, Robert. We treasure emotion, but it controls us only when we let it. I felt an outflow of gratitude. We thank you for the warm welcome and letting us visit you. It is very rewarding. No conflicts, no anger, no competition. We do have competition, but we never get so involved that we forget it's a game.
So again, I refer back, I've referred to this many times, that Bob Holbrook, he said that he visited this village in South America where everyone was in Focus 12 and there was no conflict. People lived in association with each other. They looked out for each other. So it's the same thing over here. So what this implies is that all the people here are living in higher states of consciousness. That's why they can understand each other totally, right? There is non-verbal communication going on and total communication going on.
I did not ask about love. There was no need to. The radiation from the four of them was evidence enough. But there was a tinge of sadness mixed with excitement. My friend smiled again. Your visit is well timed, for we will be leaving very shortly. We have to adjust to be without our valley and our children. Leaving? Why? We received the signal nearly 100 years ago. We had waited several thousand years for it, and it finally came. I don't understand. It is rather that you don't remember. You will when it is time for you and yours. We have experienced and known all the patterns of change in our part of this physical universe. We have gone to the stars and back, moving just the way you are doing. We found nothing that we did not have here, nothing truly anew. I think I have it. You know there is more. Perhaps that is one way of saying it. Another is curiosity. Yes, curiosity.
So again, they have been in different altered states of consciousness and they have experienced it. And now they are going to make a transition as a group. There is a story that the entire Aztec population in South America suddenly disappeared. And it is said that they went into a different altered state of consciousness as a group. So similar thing seems to be happening over here, right? And then he talks about curiosity. So curiosity is what drives us. That is what makes us look for new things to do, new things to be, to change, right? So curiosity in life, at least in this earth life experience, is a very, very important aspect of our lives.
Yes, this has happened to me. But are all of you going? Why would we leave anyone behind? Would you leave your hand or even a finger? But where will you
We
go?
can't hear you.
The signal will guide us. What is the signal? Can you describe it? It is made by arrangement. By arrangement with whom? Or what? With one of us who went ahead. They all agreed to send us the special signal when it was time for us to follow. One finally did so after these many years. He was, you are, like an explorer looking for new worlds to conquer. Not to conquer, Robert, to be in and to understand.
So again, this is very important, right? One is, what is your intent of action? One is to conquer that other place. And the other is to explore, to understand, to learn, to grow, right? They're two totally distinct ways on why you want to go out and search for something new.
But where will you go? The signal will guide us. What is the signal? Can you describe it? It is made by arrangement. By arrangement with whom or what? With one of us who went ahead. They all agreed to send us the special signal when it was time for us to follow. One finally did so after these many years. You are like an explorer looking for new worlds to conquer. Not to conquer, Robert, to be in and to understand. How do you know where to go? The questions kept flooding in. We simply follow the signal. Are you receiving it now? Oh, yes, it has been with us continuously since we first perceived it. Why don't I perceive it too? I do not know. Perhaps your attunement is different. You have waited so long. Why is that? It was necessary to train our animal children to live without us. Now that we have completed this, we are in the process of saying goodbye to all of them. We cannot, nor would we, take them with us. I understood that it was time now for me to leave. I am glad that we came. Somehow, I think we shall meet again. We shall. I could tell you more, but that would, as you might say, spoil the fun. I waved farewell, and all four waved back as I began to lift off the grass. I could not see my inspect fellow traveler, but at least I knew the way back. I phased out gradually and dwindled into blackness. Then the glowing inspect figure was beside me.
So again, going back home, right? You set an intent and you're back. Now, naturally, that signal is something that all of us keep receiving through our lives, but we don't understand it, right? The point is to become open to understand these signals.
You found them interesting, did you not? They were much like humans in the future that I have met before, except that those were living just outside of Earth, not in it. Because of your love of animals, we felt you would sense a kinship. I did. Now, is there somewhere else we can visit? What is your desire? Somewhere where there are non-humans, but intelligent and non-physical. There are many choices if they will permit it. Permit it? That doesn't sound comfortable. Some would look upon you as a pest. Yes, a pest. But you have told me I'm indestructible. I cannot be harmed. That is so. I think I need some less serene, a little more exciting. Does that sound foolish? No, if that is what you desire. And this time, will you stay with me? I am always with you. Follow me closely.
So this question, right? I am always with you. So our guides, our helping spirits, our masters, right? Our higher selves are always with us. And again, curiosity, right? So he wants some excitement. So let's see what happens.
The bright figure began to dwindle rapidly, and I was right behind, using the method I had learned to keep up and homing in on his energy field. It could have been an eternity or only an instant. That period in the blackness was just the pinpoint of light ahead of me. There was an explosion of bright colors in tiny dots, which formed what appeared to be several irregular shapes. First bright green, then yellow, and then I was pulled into one that was bright orange. I waited motionless as the orange pressed around me, holding me in a tight grip. I made no attempt to struggle, nor was I afraid. I had learned much.
So again, over here he clearly says, using the method I had learned to keep up and homing into his energy field, right? So the moment you start homing into the field of someone, that field, that tasir of someone, boom, you are in front of that person or that place or that thing. right? So connecting with the field is what is important. And over here in the last line, he says, I had learned much. So there was no point in really struggling. You had to flow, you had to allow rather than fight, right? You had to allow things to manifest.
Suddenly, a series of beats pounded into my awareness, like a succession of electric shocks. They were not severe, but irritating, demanding. I could only interpret them as a sort of computeries, a binary code. But what was communicating was a living organism. Of that, I was sure. The beats continued thudding into my head. I could not read them. So I tried to send my own weak version of nonverbal communication. I thought of an inner model of our solar system, then mentally pushed an arrow emerging from the third planet and ending where I was. This produced in response a long succession of beats. They reminded me of a primitive form of Morse code, but did not translate into letters. But as my mind became accustomed to them, a picture began to form. A flaming sun with an arrow pointing not from it, but into it. Was that where we were now?
So again, going into these states and attempting to communicate. Shimangla, we can't hear you again.
The beat stopped, then a short pattern began and repeated. Was that affirmative? Did it mean yes? The pattern repeated. It seemed a safe assumption. I created and sent a picture of myself in a physical body, followed by a rising inflection. This produced a different pattern in reply. Negative, I assumed.
So again, we learn by communication, by understanding.
Are you interested in who and what I am? Negative again. But you understand. Me? Positive this time, if I interpreted correctly. But I can't understand you. Only yes and no. Negative. Do you want me to understand you? Negative. Then let me go and I shall move out of your energy. The beats increased in speed and volume and then faded away. There was what seemed a quick and violent movement, and I was in deep blackness with my glowing inspec friend beside me.
So again, going into different realities, meeting different species in that expanded state.
You were in communication with but a small part of the whole. You mean like a finger? That is a good image. There is not much personality in a finger, but there are some who do communicate with such entities. I wonder if I will ever be able to. I believe you may, if you so desire. I have this problem, curiosity. Tell me, are there any physical non-humans I can meet who will communicate with me? You are presuming that I am not of physical matter and that I am human. Somehow, I sense you did have a physical body, but not now. You're too free. You have never said you were once human, but I suspect you were. For one thing, you have a sense of humor, sly and satirical, but it's there. Very human stuff. There was a pause. The inspect glow seemed to flicker momentarily. I perceive you need to return to the physical now. Yes, I think I had better. Thank you for the guided tour. It is my pleasure. I returned to the physical to empty a full bladder. The signal, my signal, was all too familiar. How small it is to be human, but how much fun.
So again, most people, when they go into these expanded states and we come back into the body, you feel as if you're being constricted, right? You're in a much more expanded state in these expanded states of awareness. Shivangla, we can carry on.
Let's stop here. The next chapter has started.
I know that.
Chapter 4, Hail and Farewell. My curiosity was still not satisfied. I was feeling full of myself, impatient and ready for more new experiences. However, I discovered that not everything I asked for could be granted. A man who lived nearby died, or exited, as I prefer to regard it, following a heart attack, and his family asked me if I could locate and contact him. On my next visit to my inspectorate, I asked for help with this, but I was told such access was not possible at this time. A report in the form of a rote was all that could be obtained, and I accepted this as satisfactory in the circumstances.
So very clearly he says, right, a man who lived nearby died or exited, as I prefer to regard it now, right? So it's not a death, it's an exit from the physical body. So the consciousness still exists somewhere. Now over here, he wanted to meet him, but he was told that just now you can't access it. You'll get information about it, but you can't go and access him. You can't go and meet him.
Then a new question came immediately to mind, which had much to do with my own physical experience in the here. I asked the inspec if I could be shown one non-physical, non-human intelligence which I could talk with easily. Somewhat to my surprise, my friend offered to lead me to one, and we set off through the darkness. In what seemed only a moment, we flashed into a space filled with stars. Just below us was what I recognized as our moon, and in the near distance was the huge blue and white marbleized globe, the earth. I looked around. Where was the super non-human intelligence? Reading the question, the inspector told me to look behind and above. I was astonished. Just 20 feet above me and stretching for what seemed to be miles was a huge circular saucer-shaped object, a typical flying saucer, as so often described by 1,000 times larger. Much too big to credit, but as I had thought, it shrank instantly to some 200 feet in diameter. Then a door in the bottom slid open and a figure, a man, a very human-looking man, emerged and walked. Yes, walked across to where I floated. As he approached, I recognized him, short, round, and chubby, dressed with sort of shabby gentility and wearing a grey top hat, his nose red and bulbous, his mouth a leering grin. He was an exact replica of the star of so many comic movies I had enjoyed in the physical when I was young. W.C. Fields. This replica, projection, hologram, whatever it was, spoke like Fields as well, with the same intonations and repetitions. He invited me aboard and showed me into what appeared as a large, domed room with pictures on its walls of every comedian I had ever heard of, and many more of whom I hadn't, together with thousands of scribbled jokes and cartoons. He described all this as his cargo. Cargo? What do you mean, cargo? And I continued, you can drop the impersonation. I can take you exactly as you are. You really mean it, don't you? But I'll keep it if you don't mind. It helps me to think like a human. Or would you prefer someone else? Groucho Marx, perhaps? No, no, stay as you are. Tell me, what are you doing? Hanging around Earth? My boy, I'm an exporter. I see. What do you have that we need apart from this spaceship? I must have used the term wrong. I export from here, not to, my friend. What possible thing could we have that is valuable to you? You're obviously way ahead of our technology. You use thought communication. We have nothing you could want or need. He scratched his nose. Well, sir, it's not easy to get it, but I do. Yes, sir, I do. We don't have any, and you can't imagine how valuable something is if you don't have any. Don't have any what? I've been gathering it for ages. It used to be very rare, but there's more of it about now. You've lost me? Sometimes you need to know the civilization to understand it. That's one of the problems. I still don't see. You humans have it, and it's very rare and valuable among the rest of the intelligent species in what you call the physical universe and elsewhere. Very rare and valuable, sir. I'm a specialist in collection. You don't understand, I see. Let me explain. Please do. It's a one in a million product, and you humans have it. A sense of humor, jokes, fun, the best tonic there is for overloaded mind systems. It auto erases the tension and pressure almost every time it's used.
So again, basically, he's gathering humor, right? Because that is a very, very valuable commodity elsewhere. So when you have something, you really don't care about it. We don't notice it. And that is where gratitude comes in, to be grateful for what we have, the resources that we have, which, make our life comfortable or make life livable. Let's put it that way. But we are not operating out of gratitude most of the time.
Please do. It's a one in a million product, and you humans have it. A sense of humor, jokes, fun, the best tonic there is for overloaded mind systems. It auto erases the tension and pressure almost every time it's used. So, you cruise around among us looking for the newest and latest? Exactly. You humans catch sight of our collection units every now and then and get the wrong idea. You even make UFO jokes about us. All we want to do is look and listen. Nothing else. Apart from the odd practical joke, just to keep in training. And now, if you'll excuse me, sir, I must be on my way. Suddenly, I found myself outside the spaceship, which was rapidly diminishing into the far distance. I homed in on my inspec friend, who was waiting for me in the deep darkness. Now I knew that at least humans have one unique quality. You've managed that well, but there is another matter that occupies your mind. You have a hidden desire that you are trying to express. Yes, there is one that I would like to visit. You know what I mean. The most mature and evolved human in physical earth, living in your time reference. That is so. Can it be done? Yes, but the result may not be what you expect. I wish to try all the same. I shall lead you. I followed the dwindling curl of light through the darkness for I don't know how long. Suddenly, I was in a room, a normal sort of room, sparsely furnished with a few chairs and easy chairs and a table. Two large windows allowed in rays of sunlight. Outside, there appeared to be a stand of tall trees. It could be anywhere on earth. At a desk on one side of the room sat a person, I couldn't tell whether it was male or female. The face and body structure could be either. The face was almost unlined, the hair light brown and down just around the ears. The age somewhere between 30 and 50, as far as I could tell. The clothing was simple, a white shirt and dark slacks. But it was the radiation that stunned me. It was like standing in bright spring sunlight that was filled with every human emotion that ever existed. It was almost overwhelming and yet familiar. It was equally balanced. One moment it was male, then I was sure it was female. A true equal, a he, she.
So again, going into the radiation or to the field of a highly enlightened kind of a personality.
The radiation closed off. He, she, there had to be a name looked up. The eyes were bottomless. I could detect no expression or emission. The control was perfect, yet I could not understand the reason for the restraint.
So now when you look into the eyes of a highly evolved kind of a person, they say that the eyes are the windows to the soul, right? You'll see that glassiness which is there in the eyes. Exactly what he is talking about here. That it's deep, it's bottomless, and there is no flickering. You will always see that what happens is that the person will blink less also, right? So it acts like a mirror, it acts like a pool. We can stop here.